Welcome back to the Raising Our Vibration podcast, where we explore higher consciousness through spiritual practice. And today, Stephen is away on business, so I thought I'd take the opportunity to share some explorations I've been doing into measuring the biomarkers of a flow state using the Flowtime Biosensing Headband. Now, for those of you who are watching this, you can see that I'm wearing a Flowtime Biosensing Headband. If you're listening, I'll just describe the things that I'm going to be showing in the video so that you can fully understand how this works and why it's important. And then at the end of this, I'm going to guide a simple practice that can help you access a state of flow. So, a couple months ago, I was contacted by Flowtime to do some beta testing for their new flow biofeedback. And so I was really interested in that. And I've been using this Flowtime Biosensing Headband for the past couple years. And if you're watching this, I don't know if you can see, but there's a couple places here where I've used this so much that I've actually had to super glue it back together because it's been with me on some travels and through a lot of usage. But it's still ticking. It's still working after a couple years, and it works great. One thing I love about the Flowtime Headband is that it not only measures your brain waves, but it also measures your heart rate and your respiration, HRV, and gives you indicators of relaxation and attention. And now, with their new biofeedback, it gives you an indicator of, or a biofeedback sound when you're in a state of flow. So what is a state of flow? So you can describe flow as a state of present moment attentiveness that is also relaxed and fully immersed in the experience that you're having. And so a flow state is really desirable pretty much for anything that you're doing. If you can be fully present, fully attentive, while also being relaxed and fully absorbed and immersed in the experience, you're not only going to have a better experience, but you're going to be more effective in whatever you're doing. So flow state is really something that is a great thing to be able to consciously put yourself into that state and to learn to live from that state. And biofeedback is a way that you can train yourself, train this body, heart, mind system that you have to rest and move within a state of flow. So you may associate that with the idea of being in the zone, or maybe you've seen a Tai Chi master and how they're flowing in these slow movements and very present and very fluid and flexible and free. So flow is really, again, a desirable experience. And so any way that we can learn to train ourselves to be in flow could be a good thing. So what I want to do here is share my screen, and I'm going to show you some of the things that you can see with the Flowtime app that can help you be in a state of flow. So here I have, now there's a lot of data on this screen, so I'm going to really go through it step by step. And let's start on the left side here. And again, for those listening, I'm going to describe everything so you get a sense for what I'm talking about. But what I did this is a 30-minute practice session that I recorded on the Flowtime app. And what I did prior to this session was I wanted to be in a state where my mind was maybe not in flow. So I was looking on social media and checking emails and doing that kind of thing where my attention was moving from one thing to the next and kind of in that sort of state of attention. So I wanted to do that first so then we could see a contrast with as I was moving into a flow state. So if you look on this left-hand side, you'll see the 30-minute practice is roughly divided into 3 sections, which you can see represented on the graphs here. This upper left graph shows that my time in the flow state was 66% of the time. It was really the second 2/3 of the graph here. So initially, like I said, I'm in this busy, active mind state of moving from one thing to the next, which I would not describe as flow. And you'll see, so what I did first was sit in a meditative posture, go through my posture cues, and start attending to my breathing. So you see in that first section, my mind is active. It's coming out of being in a very active state, not a flow state. And as I'm attending to these different cues, you'll see that gradually, as I get maybe 5-6 minutes into it, you'll see that this downward trend as I'm sinking down into a flow state. So you see, after maybe just a few minutes, there was a peak of attention where I'm really focusing my attention. And then as my attention is focused, and what I focused on were the sensations of breathing in my lower abdomen. So as I focused on those sensations of breathing, there's initially a high point of active mind where I'm actively focusing. And then as I relax into and get absorbed in the sensations of breathing, you can see this downward trend from an active mind into a flow state, which you'll see it maybe it dips down into this purple region of flow at about maybe 8 or 9 minutes. And so what I did at that point, once I was absorbed in breathing, is I started emphasizing my exhalation so that I allowed my exhalation to become longer. I extended it out and also allowed my breathing to become quieter, softer, and more subtle. And you'll see there that as I did that, I went into what it was giving me a biofeedback for flow, and then it stayed in that purple flow zone for the rest of the practice. And the biofeedback is like a Tibetan bowl sound, maybe something like this. And as long as once you get in flow, you hear that sound, a really nice sound. It's a pleasant sound. And then you hear it every 5 seconds that you stay in that flow state. So you'll see from here about 8 minutes through to about 31 minutes, I was staying in that flow state. And if you look down underneath that, there's a graph of coherence. Coherence in this sense is when your breathing is really slow, deep, and regular. So deep, regular breathing is coherent breathing, and that tends to bring your heart rate also into a state of coherence. And coherence in this graph is marked by green. And you'll see that there's a coherence in the breathing because I was focused on deep, regular breathing right from the start all the way through about 2/3 of the practice. So what happened at that 2/3 mark of the practice? At the 2/3 mark, I had allowed the breathing to become so quiet, subtle, and soft that it dropped out. And I was no longer aware of the breath. And I simply rested in a state of being aware. At that point, my mind was very quiet. And there's just this resting in present moment, felt sense of being aware. And that continued throughout the remainder of the meditation. You'll see on the flow graph, when I shifted into that letting go of the breath, that the flow state actually got even deeper and maintained a deeper level. And in the coherence graph, I lost that coherence of the breath because I was letting go of the breath, and the breath almost disappeared and faded away. So that is a sign of kind of going into a deeper meditative state when the breath kind of fades away. So you use the breath to initiate and move into the state. So first, in the first part of the practice, doing deep, regular breathing, and then allowing the exhale to become longer, and then allowing the breath to become more subtle, quiet, and soft until the breath fades away and there's just this resting in a state of presence, being, awareness without content. Okay, so that's kind of the three parts of the practice there. The focusing on the breath is the first part, then the allowing the breath in terms of exhalation to extend longer, allowing the breath to become quieter, more subtle. Then the third part, the dropping away of the breath and just resting in that state of presence and being aware. So if we move to and if you look down at the bottom of this first graphic, you'll see my heart rate was an average of 52 beats per minute. So the whole thing was a very relaxed state. And then you can see my HRV there was an average of about 27. Okay, so it's a very relaxed state, but you can see there's progressive stages to it. And those stages are really shown in these measurements, which I find both fascinating and also helpful in terms of being able to fine-tune being in such a state. So if we move to the brainwave section of the markers, if you look, you can also see the three parts of the practice in the brainwaves. So initially in this initial section, you'll see, first thing you'll notice is that all the brainwaves are moving in synchrony with each other. So right from the start, and that's from focusing into this deep, regular breathing. I would associate that with this synchronicity of all five of the brainwave ranges. And you'll see what happens with the brainwaves is they start out as I'm initially focusing attention. There's a higher energy, a higher effort of focus, but then you see this downward trend as I move into a more relaxed state. And then you'll see the brainwaves kind of even out here. And what I want you to note in the second 2/3 of the graph is this evening out of the brainwaves into two distinct bands. One is this band of beta, alpha, theta, which all those brainwaves kind of being balanced and being overriding. So there's this evenness of beta with alpha, with theta, and they're all contributing about the same amount, so to speak. They're all showing up about the same amount in the reading. If you look up at this graphic above, you'll see the proportion of the blue beta, the yellow alpha, and the green theta. They're all about equal width, and that's showing you that they're about equally contributing to the state. And then on the bottom is delta and gamma brainwaves. So as I moved into a effortless, easeful state, you'll see the gamma in particular. Note how that drops down low. And then as I switched my attention to paying even finer attention to having the exhalation be longer and more subtle, quiet, and soft, that required a little more attention to detail. And you'll see, so as gamma drops down, then as I switched into really paying that fine attention to the detail, you'll see there's just a little swell of gamma moving up here. And then as the breath dropped away and there was just a resting in being, you'll see gamma rides really low here at the bottom of the graph. So that's what I would associate with this deepest state of flow, where the beta, alpha, theta are in a balanced state, so that I think of beta as attention, alpha as relaxation, theta as immersion. And so it's this nice balance in flow of being fully attentive while being relaxed and deeply immersed in the experience. And so you see that really well represented in this graph of those three brain waves all being in equal proportion. And then at the bottom, gamma is really low in this state. So great representation of the brain waves here. And now we move over to this measure of relaxation. So the higher it goes on this graph, you can you'll see the more relaxation. So in the relaxation graph, you'll see as I was really initially focusing and making an effort at attention, relaxation was lower. And then as I became more absorbed in the breath, the relaxation went higher. Then as I had that period where I was paying close or finer attention to the detail of the breath and the exhalation and the subtlety of the breath, there was just a little dip of relaxation, but it still stayed pretty relaxed. And then as I moved into that phase of the practice where the breath was dropping out, you'll see the relaxation goes even higher and stabilizes. So you notice in that kind of contentless state without the breath, but just this awareness of being itself, this felt sense of being with awareness, there's this nice high level of relaxation that's stable. And if you look over to the final graph, and this graph of relaxation relates to the alpha and theta waves. So as alpha and theta waves are high, then relaxation is high, and that's what that graph is showing. So alpha and theta moving together and both being high. If we move over to the final graph here, it's a graph of attention. And so you'll see, again, the three parts of the practice really well represented in the attention graph. The attention graph is a graph of beta and gamma. So when beta and gamma are high, you'll see the attention level is high. And so if you look at the first section of the graph, you'll see that there's a high level of attention as I'm really focusing, making an effort to focus on the breath and really tuning into it. And then as I just become absorbed in the breath, so there's not an effort of attention required, you'll see the attention lowers until there's, again, that point where I was going to pay more finely tuned attention to the exhalation and to the subtlety of the breath. You'll see just a little raising of the attention here during that period. And then again, when the breath drops out and I'm just resting in this state of felt sense of being aware, you'll see that attention is really low and stable across the bottom. So there's no longer any effort at attention. I'm just riding in this state of flow. So I thought it's really phenomenal to see all of this so well represented in these different measures. And they can really be helpful to us in terms of being able to identify how to move into flow and then what it's like to stay in flow. And the biofeedback is helpful because you get this little ringing sound every 5 seconds that you stay into flow. And so that kind of tells your brain, that's it. Whatever you're doing there, stay with that. All right. So again, flow time, really wonderful measure of both the brain waves, but also your heart rate and your respiration. And I've learned so much from monitoring all different kinds of practices with the Flowtime headband, specifically now with this new biofeedback for flow. I found it super helpful. So I'm going to stop sharing there. Now, so this new biofeedback for flow was just introduced on the app, the Flowtime app this week. So if you have the Flowtime headset, then you now in the app have access to this flow biofeedback. So I highly recommend that you take advantage of that. And if you've tried the Flowtime Biosensing Headband in the past and found that it didn't fit your head because it was rigid plastic here, and that just didn't fit the shape of your head, like Stephen, for example, had that experience. It fits my head perfectly. I don't know if I just have a nice round head here. I don't know what it is, but it just fits the Flowtime headband perfectly. Well, they're just about to launch generation 2 of the Flowtime headband, and that has a flexible band, a more flexible band, and also larger sensors. So I think it's going to be even more accurate, although I find this super accurate and reliable, the most reliable readings that I've gotten, and the most wealth of readings that I've gotten in a headband. So that generation 2, look for the generation 2 if you're buying a Flowtime headband, because that's imminent. That's just about to come out. And if you already have one, then make sure to check out the Flowtime or the Flow biofeedback. I think you'll really enjoy that. So to finish up today, I thought I'd just do a little guidance into flow so that you can have a little taste of the practice that I was doing. I did it over 30 minutes, but we'll do it just for a couple minutes here to guide you into the cues that I'm using to feel this state of flow. So if you would join me in practice for a couple minutes, let's do that now. So you can, wherever you are, make sure you have, make sure you're not driving. But if you can take a few moments just to sit quietly and not do anything else, I'll guide you into a flow state. So let's begin by having the feet firmly on the ground. And then you can rest your hands one on top of the other on your lower abdomen. And lightly close your eyes. And to begin, just soften and relax your hands. And notice how softening your hands makes them more sensitive, so you can feel the sensations in your lower abdomen when your hands are soft and relaxed. And as you soften your hands, soften and relax your shoulders down. And sit comfortably upright. Tuck your chin just slightly to gently lengthen the back of your neck. Lightly close your lips and breathe in and out through your nose only. Then soften and relax your tongue. Softening your tongue sends a relaxation signal through your vagus nerve network. It helps to relax the whole body. So as you feel that sense of letting go and relaxation, just subtly smile. Enjoy that feeling of a few moments of relaxation. And now focus into your lower abdomen and become aware of the sensations of breathing. So as you breathe in, feel the gentle expansion as if you're abdomen is gently filling up with your breath. And as you breathe out, feel the gentle relaxation inwards of your lower abdomen. See if you can pay attention to the whole cycle of your breathing so you notice the moment you begin to inhale. Follow your in-breath until you naturally pause, and then notice the moment you begin to exhale. Then follow the sensations of breathing out until you naturally pause. So that's the first phase of the practice, that deep, regular breathing, feeling the sensations of breathing in your lower abdomen, and allowing your mind to become completely absorbed in the breath. So everything else fades to the background. There's only breathing. Now, the second phase of the practice, become aware of allowing the exhalation to lengthen. Just easily, gently, gradually allow your exhalation to lengthen. So it becomes longer than the inhalation. And as the exhalation becomes longer, allow the breath to become subtle, quiet, and soft. So now you're tuning into very subtle sensations. Notice how your mind and your emotions quiet and calm. And you're just enjoying the easy flow of your breath, becoming more and more subtle, quiet, and soft. Now, the third phase, allow your breathing to become so quiet and soft that it dissolves, and you open to a felt sense of being, simply being, not doing anything, simply being, felt sense of being. Being aware. Simply being aware. And notice quality of your attention is effortless. Your mind is quiet. Your body is relaxed. You're present. Feel this quality of simply being. Letting go of doing anything while staying aware. Aware of being. Simply being. And now, very slowly begin to open your eyes. Become aware of the feeling of the space all around you, together with the space inside, as one space of being aware. If you enjoyed that short practice of breathing into flow, I've just recorded a 10-minute version of that practice for the ROV meditation app, which I'll upload to the app this weekend so you can follow along with the guided practice. So I hope you've enjoyed this short practice of resting into flow, and hope you found the biomarkers of flow interesting, and that you'll experiment with both resting in that sense of flow and also using some measures to measure it and fine-tune your experience. So thank you all for joining me here today. Thank you all for your practice. And if you'd like more information on awareness and meditation practices like this, you can visit us at raisingourvibration.net. And we'd love to hear from you there. Until next time, bye for now. Take care.